Hello, everyone. Fairmont Crest has never truly been peaceful. It is just that this time, the darkness does not come from a gunshot or an open scandal, but from a name that has been hidden far too carefully. I am going to follow the latest story beat exactly. Jacob has informed Elon that Grayson's contact is a woman. Elon has decided to send Marcel to approach Leia Whitmore at Garland Memorial. And this week's recaps and spoilers all strongly suggest that Leia may be an extremely dangerous link in the plasma ring case. In Fairmont Crest, the truth rarely arrives as a confession. It usually comes in the form of a brief phone call in the dark, a name swallowed halfway through, an instinct dismissed as emotion. And then it spreads like a crack through glass that once looked flawless. That night, Jacob stood in a narrow alley, where the dirty yellow light at the end of the street was only enough to illuminate half his face. The cold clung to his skin, but what weighed on him was not the weather. It was the feeling that he was nearing a door that should never be opened. He called Elon in a low, hurried voice and reported that Grayson was working for a woman. That one detail alone was enough to narrow every line of suspicion. What had once been a vague network crowded with too many shadows had now become a narrow corridor leading straight toward the center of an unseen force. Jacob understood that this was the biggest breakthrough so far, but he also understood something even more frightening. In cases like this, the closer you get to the truth, the closer you get to the trap the other side has already prepared. Elon did not react like a man who had just been handed an important piece of the puzzle. He stayed silent for too long, as if what Jacob said did not surprise him, but merely confirmed an old suspicion he had never dared to put into words. That is the most terrifying kind of silence, because it is no longer speculation. It is acceptance that things have become too bad to undo. He said he would send someone to the hospital to dig for information from that side. The decision sounded logical, but beneath it lay something more psychological. Elon was not just directing an investigation. He was trying to control the speed at which the people he relied on were falling apart. Jacob was too close to the blast point, too exhausted, too easy to expose. If Elon pushed him any further, the price might not simply be a blown cover, but a life. Yet choosing Marcel revealed another contradiction inside Elon. He wanted to move soft enough not to alert Leia, but sharp enough to cut through the mask she wore. That was not the choice of a confident man. It was the choice of a man who had begun to fear that he was fighting an opponent smarter than he had ever admitted. After hanging up, Elon turned and told Leslie to leave. The way he pushed her out of that space was not just irritation. It felt like the reflex of a man who knew that from this moment on, every unnecessary sound was a threat. Then he called Marcel in and told him to contact Leia, his old friend at Garland Memorial, to see whether he could trace anything about the ring. Marcel hesitated for a moment. In his mind, Leia was not a name tied to darkness. She was a cleaner memory than most people who had passed through his life. Someone he still wanted to believe was decent in a world with so little room left for decency. That very belief made his answer dangerous. He said that Leia was a good person. On the surface, it was only the instinct of someone who still had a little humanity left. But in an investigation like this, kind instincts can become fatal blind spots. People are not usually destroyed by the enemies they prepared themselves to fear. They are more often undone by the people they keep protecting for one naive reason: they cannot believe those people could be that bad. Marcel agreed to approach Leia under the cover of an old conversation. He would ask indirectly about the state of the hospital, about staff members facing financial hardship, about the kinds of people who might sell their ethics for extra money through a blood plasma trafficking operation. The plan sounded clever, almost harmless. But that harmlessness was exactly what made it suspicious. If Leia was truly innocent, she would take it as casual concern from an old acquaintance. But if she was involved, she would immediately recognize the unnatural rhythm in every question, every pause, every searching glance. That meeting, then, was no longer a simple attempt to gather information. It became a duel of minds in which the loser might already have lost the moment he agreed to walk into the room. Marcel thought he was going there to observe. But if Leia really stood at the center of the storm, then it might be Marcel who was being observed, read, and tested piece by piece to see how much he knew, how much he suspected, and how far he was willing to betray. The most frightening part of this entire chain lies with Grayson. He did not just hide Leia's name, he hid the true extent of how dangerous she was. A hidden name may simply be a survival tactic, but a hidden level of danger is the mark of fear. And when someone like Grayson, who is not the sort to shake easily, chooses to downplay the weight of the truth, that means the person above him has not only power but the ability to silence others with something deeper than money. Jacob could feel that very clearly. Every time he got closer to Grayson, he did not feel as if he were cornering his enemy. He felt as though he were being led through a maze in which every exit had already been measured. The truth was no longer about whether Leia was involved. The real question was how deeply she was involved, and whether everything they had seen so far was only the outermost layer of something far more cruel. There is also a quiet tragedy growing inside Marcel, and that is what gives this storyline more weight than an ordinary investigation. He enters this mission carrying two instincts that cancel each other out. On one side is his duty to Elon, to the case, to the nameless victims being drained dry by someone else's greed. On the other is his memory of Leia, of the version of her he once believed he knew. He wants to uncover the truth, but he also wants that truth not to become the worst thing possible. That conflict makes every decision Marcel makes feel fragile. If he is too soft, he will be manipulated. If he is too hard, he may destroy the last chance to understand what is really happening inside that hospital. And if the decisive moment comes, when all the evidence points at Leia, the first person to break may not be her at all. It may be Marcel, because he will be forced to face the greatest humiliation for anyone who still believes in goodness, realizing that he used his faith in goodness to shield a monster. As for Elon, the deeper he goes, the more his imbalance between calculation and fear begins to show. He still carries the calm exterior of a man who has spent a lifetime brushing against filth, but beneath it, his unease is growing. He suspects Marcel may not stay clear-headed if Leia truly is the target. He suspects Jacob has gone too deep to distinguish courage from self-destruction. And worst of all, he may be starting to suspect himself. Because if Leia has been within his line of sight for a long time and he still never dared to name the threat for what it was, then what has he really been leading all this time? An investigation, or merely a delay tactic to postpone the moment he must admit that the monster has been sitting inside the place they all assumed was safest. A hospital is supposed to save lives. If that place has become the center of a system that drains human blood in both the literal and symbolic sense, then this is no longer just a war against criminals. It becomes a war against the rot inside a system dressed up as salvation. Then comes the cruelest question of all. If Leia realizes she is under investigation, will she panic, or will she smile? Fear usually belongs to those who have only recently made a mistake. A smile belongs to those who have already prepared every escape route, every sacrifice, and every counterattack. If Leia truly is the mastermind behind the ring, she will not react like prey. She will react like someone watching the final pieces move exactly where she wanted them. A crack in the hospital, a revelation from Grayson, Jacob's phone call, Marcel's approach. From their side, these look like progress. But from Leia's side, they may simply be a sequence she anticipated in order to identify who suspects her, who can still be turned, and who must be eliminated before the secret bursts open. When a woman is cold enough to run darkness from a place that bears the name of healing, her calm becomes more terrifying than any outburst could ever be. Jacob, meanwhile, keeps moving like a man who knows the floor may collapse beneath him and keeps walking anyway. He tells himself that every new lead brings him closer to ending this, closer to exposing the woman behind Grayson, closer to cutting the ring at its root. But the deeper truth is harsher. He is no longer simply chasing answers. He is being reshaped by the hunt itself. Every lie he tells, every alleyway call, every half-confession he buries inside his chest strips away another layer of the person he used to be. The danger around him is real, but the corrosion inside him may be worse. Because even if he reaches the truth and survives, he may still lose something essential, the ability to believe that justice can arrive clean. Or that the people pulling strings from the shadows were ever more human than the damage they caused. And that is what makes the coming confrontation between Jacob, Marcel, and Leia so impossible to predict. Jacob may be the one closest to the truth, but he is also the one with the trap tightening around every step. Marcel may be the only one who can reach Leia through a cover that feels natural enough, but emotion itself is the open wound that makes him easiest to kill. And Leia, if all the suspicion is true, will not collapse like someone exposed. She will fight like someone who has lived too long behind two faces, someone far too skilled at turning kindness into the perfect disguise. When every secret is stripped bare at once, the first person to fall may not be the most evil one. In battles like this, the first to go down is often the one who held onto faith the longest. Jacob may be crushed under the weight of the truth. Marcel may be torn apart between duty and his heart. But there is an even darker possibility. Leia may be the only one who does not fall, because she prepared for that moment long ago, because she has already built a maze of betrayal, false openings, and psychological traps so intricate that the people who thought they were hunting will only realize too late that they were prey all along. If you look closely, this is not just a story about who is behind the plasma ring. It is a story about how power likes to hide in the places people suspect the least, about how truth does not destroy people the moment it appears but destroys them on the road toward it, and about how lingering emotion can sometimes be more dangerous than a loaded gun. Jacob is moving forward because he has no road back. Marcel is moving forward because he still wants to believe he can save something. And Leia, if she really is at the center of this nightmare, has likely been standing at the end of the road for a long time, calmly watching each of them make their way toward her. Fairmont Crest remains as quiet as ever, but that silence is the most frightening warning of all. Because when the cleanest places begin to smell of lies, the fall that follows will not hurt just one person. It will drag down an entire world that once believed itself untouchable. Everything I share here is only personal speculation and opinion. If you found this video interesting or helpful, please support me with a like and leave a comment. If you have better theories or more interesting predictions, share them in the comments so everyone can join the discussion. I truly appreciate every contribution and all your support. Thank you very much. And if you have not followed us yet, please scroll down and hit the subscribe button.